welcome back. Welcome back. You are still tuned in to Funtastic Fridays here on New Start 93 FM. And we're currently in the segment called Talk the Ting with Kim, where we're discussing toxic parenting. And we have with us a special guest, a clinical social worker, a Mrs. Joy Pedley-Rochester from the Child Planning and Child Protection, and Family Services Agency. Right, but guys, I tell you, like, I had a particular mindset coming into this conversation, and that is nowhere where we're going with this talk, and I'm actually happy about it because this is an aspect that even in my research, nothing like that came up. Everything was topical. Everything was, these are the things, So I love that you mentioned this, and I have to point out, guys, MV was sitting down.
Yeah.
And the more she explained, MV get up, cross him and take a step.
He's deep. Deeply engaged.
And as soon as she paused, she's like, hold on, I have a question.
Yeah.
So I love it. And Carty on live says, very interesting. I never thought of it.
Lift up the cover. We're on the inside of this.
Yeah, man. And I love that you said we lift up the cover, right?
Yeah.
So, MV, you were leading with a question before we went to the break.
Let's give a recap, guys. Welcome back.
Listen, I don't know if I can properly, I said toxic parenting, but I don't know if I can properly recap everything that.
No, not everything.
That wealth of knowledge, right?
But all right, let's get into it. We closed off the segment going into how the actual brain reacts to the toxic behaviors and then the trauma that they've been through, and then processes it into a place where the brain can continue to operate even though it has not healed.
You have normalized a particular type of behavior.
All right. No.
And also the types of parenting.
So that becomes a new way to function, and it's the norm.
Yes.
And MV is asking now, and myself as well, seeing that they said that there are some chemicals that are destroyed or broken down. Can this be changed? What can be done to change this? How do we go about fixing these issues?
So scientists has discovered that the brain is what you call plastic. And it means that it's changeable. The brain is like the trunk, not the trunk, the root of a tree. So it literally grows. And therefore, whatever information you send to the brain, that root gets stronger. Therefore, it is your thought pattern that is going to rewire your brain. So whatever information you send to your brain, you're going to grow new roots, you're going to strengthen new areas of your brain. So your thoughts water your brain, it waters the roots. So if you send in negative information, that area of the brain is stronger. And if you send in positive information, that area is stronger. So it's because it's a rewiring of the brain with the information that you put in, and you have to be intentional about it. Because remember that your default system came from a place of wound and hurt, and sometimes you're trying and you go right back to that place where you're coming from. But you have to be intentional with what you do to maintain those rules. They said if you do something for 21 days consistently, it becomes a habit. Yes. So whatever you're doing, so you're going to, in order now to fix the damage that was done, you're going to have to practice self-care. You're going to take on a new lifestyle. What does that looks like to you? All right. So the first thing to help these people is for them to recognize that pathology is happening in the brain. Abnormality is happening in the brain, and it affects your behavior. So that's the first place to start. Help them to understand that you are behaving abnormal, which is really not an easy task.
Yeah.
You know.
I would be a task for a therapist.
But so the first thing would do, is to, if you're going to help a person, is to get them to see a professional. professional.
Yeah.
And that's what the therapist would do. But even as family members, you can in love help to point out some of these negative behavior in love, not criticizing them, right? Because criticism will make them angry and retreat to their own way.
Right.
That's what they do. They get defensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what they know. They always feel as if they are under scrutiny. They are
attacked.
no good. They are being attacked. So you're just sending them right back to where they're coming from.
Yeah.
So it has to be done in love. Yeah.
And that's why, as you say, the best one would most likely be get a professional help. Even though you're trying to do it out of love, sometimes it might not be received that way because they're in the defense now. It's very hard to tell somebody who's stubborn that they're stubborn.
Well, what I want to know for the CPFSA, since you said probably start with a therapist. I know most Jamaicans probably their first thought is because we're not big on therapy here. But does the CPFSA have an arm that focuses on that, where parents can come to seek this therapy that is definitely necessary?
Well, we have partnering agency, and so we do some of these interventions. We have a therapeutic center for the children, not for the adult. You have the parenting commission, who should be dealing with that arm of the parenting. I've not been hearing much about them. I'm not sure what they are doing, but the parenting commission should be the arm that works with the parents. But in our agency, we do parenting session. It does not amount to therapy, but we do parenting session to help them to cognitively be aware of what is going on with their children and what is happening with them. And out of it, we are hoping that they will see the need to go and get further counseling. We will refer some of them to the Family Life Ministry because the Family Life Ministry do pro bono in some cases, and we're able to get them to do some of our cases, But the arm for parenting is really the parenting commission.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, true, because I was thinking that as well, because they're mostly going to be
focused on the children.
So we need these agencies, probably later down in the year.
Can do a research on that.
Because we're going to need the options to provide persons. I mean, persons are out there wanting to change, wanting to help,
but don't know the
one
first
of the biggest things in Jamaica. We don't know where to go.
Yeah. But I see a comment here from Carter, and I think this statement that has been made is a reflection of what probably many Jamaicans have. So I think this is probably a good opportunity to probably correct this if it's a misconception or so. So she said they don't do anything for the parents. They're just quick to take the children, right? So lots of Jamaicans have seen it before. They're like, child protection, all them more they take the picnic, them know, what do you want to say regarding that? That's
concept? A misconception and a very large one. Because, be honest, where would we put all of these children? Why do we want to take them?
Yeah, where would we put them? Okay, yeah.
Yes. So one, if we want to start there, we have limited space at the homes.
Yeah.
Two, the best place for a child is within the care of their family. And so we look out for the best interests of the child. And we would have explored everything. Putting a child into a home is the very last resort. We don't enjoy doing that because we know too that's even traumatizing the child.
Yeah.
We're moving the child from the comfort of his home or her home to put them into a unfamiliar space with all kind of different unfamiliar behavior. So we try to keep the child in the home. It's really last resort. And how do we get there? Suppose a child has been sexually abused and the abuser is still in the home because sometimes it takes a while to go through the system, the port. We will have to remove that child. If the child is badly physically abused, we will have to remove that child. And we don't really want to put that child into a facility either. So we explore family members, friends, and only when we are able to find someone who is capable to take care of this child, that we resort to a facility.
I remember Kimmie spoke earlier with the student, the social work students association.
Yeah, we did.
And they did say that. They said they're, working along with social workers, they're part of that program. They said their first option is to really keep the child in the home with the family.
Yeah.
It's when it's not a safe place for the child that want to find an alternative.
And I feel like the misconception that Jamaicans have is usually after severe situations, but these are the ones that make the news. I'm sure you probably encounter countless situations that never make it to a newspaper, right? But then the severe ones that are newsworthy goes to the public. They see the actions that weren't necessary, and then everybody builds this conception that, okay, that's all them good for them. Let's take the children, you know?
And usually you hear one side of the story.
That is true. Yeah. That is very true. So I'm really happy that you addressed that. And I know that over the past 2 weeks, guys, we focused on pointing out some of these habits that toxic parents may have, you know, for us to reflect and see if we are either victims of it or guilty of it. But I want to focus a bit now on solutions, right? So I want to know, let's start from the parents, right? What steps can persons take if they've identified with some of the things you've listed in previous weeks? What are some things that they can do in efforts to change this bad habit of toxic parenting?
All right, so I mentioned earlier that the first thing is to acknowledge the abnormal behavior.
Yes.
Seek professional help.
Yes.
Acknowledge who you are, you know, and where you want to go. All right. Recognize too that you're a product of your environment. You did not create yourself. But the fact that you're aware that you are performing far below your worth, your value.
Yeah.
You can't change yesterday, but you can change tomorrow. You can change today.
Yeah.
You can take intentional action to be different, to do something different. You know, begin to assess your strengths and your weaknesses. Big up your strength. You know, don't pay too much time on the weaknesses. You will have time to address them, but focus on your strength. And delve in those areas. If whatever you find your hands find to do, whatever you can do to help yourself, do it. Because small accomplishment helps you to feel good about yourself. Establish borders and stick to them. Validate your feelings. You know, don't just push your feelings aside. They are real and they contribute to your behavior. Validate them, you know, and deal with them. And yes, if you are seeing a therapist, the therapist will help you deal with them. Find your voice as a person, because a lot of times the person who was always criticized and beaten after a while feel as if they don't have a say in life, they don't have a voice. And they may be more emotional about how they deal with life. They make emotional decision as against conscious decision. So find your voice. Learn to say no. Because before you could have been a people pleaser because you felt that this is how you gain acceptance. Because you didn't feel that way before based on how you were treated. You didn't feel valued. And so you feel that you have to be a yes person in order to get the validation that you need. So you have to find your voice, recognize who you are, learn to say no. You know, join support group, right? Yeah. Work with your family. Let your family know that you have a desire to change, and so you become accountable, or you know, of your behavior. That you don't just do anything and get away with it, but your family are aware that you're making effort to change, and hopefully they will help. And I'm saying hopefully, because you have families out there with all of them on the same page. Those families, you would call them enmeshed families.
Yeah.
Yeah, because with a whole heap of dysfunctional
in one
Right
space,
across
in
the
the
board.
same space.
Yeah.
And if you find yourself in that, you have to isolate yourself. Take yourself out of that, because you can't change anybody. You have to change yourself. You know, if you're on an airplane and it go down, then say put on your oxygen before you help somebody. So you have to take yourself away from it. Help yourself before you attempt to try to help your family.
Yeah, because you being healthy provide a better option for your family. If you're not healthy, you can't give as much of yourself.
You can't help nobody else.
Yes, you can't help.
If you're fighting in the air to breathe, you can't help your child. That's why you need the oxygen mask first. Yeah?
Yes. And I mentioned that be accountable to someone and be patient with yourself.
There we go.
What happened to you did not happen overnight. In fact, it started happening before you were born. Yeah, so it may be painful in trying to reestablish yourself, but be patient with yourself and take small steps.
Listen, I think these are gems that I think it can apply across the board. I think we should all actually be taking notes from this because these are some excellent tips. Get that support system. If, as I said, if therapy is not available, you can actually start with the whole, the family can, in love, correct you. Yes. Address it from a place of love, because, as I said, it feels like when somebody brings up these things, because all it feels like an attack. It feels like they are coming at you, right? So I like that you mentioned that. And then, would you say the advice for children, persons who are victims, because all of us are no longer children, but we are victims, would you say it's the same advice for the victims? Because
it's the same advice, because these are victims that becomes perpetrators.
Okay.
So it would be the same advice. For usually children are not, they depend on their parents and they depend on their adults, so they may not be able to take some of the steps. So they may need family members who step in, help them to regulate themselves, provide that safe space for them, that help them to regulate themselves, help them to see life through a clearer lens, help them to recognize that they are safe in this space, allow them to share their feelings, and if they think the child needs counseling, then they help to get the child kind of counseling that they need.
And you said that the CPFSA has a therapeutic center, so there's at least a start.
There is a start, yes. And that's what we are here for. Take the child. We have a 211 number as a family member that you can call to say this is happening and I believe this child needs help, or you can just take the child and come in. We have our offices into all the parishes, so take the child to one of our offices. We are listed, so go to your Google and find it, or you can call 211. 211 is 24-hour. You need no credit. Just call. Yes, and once you call, as I said earlier, someone will receive the information, send it to the investigation department, and someone will come. We'll find the child at school, at home, wherever the child frequents, as long as we get the information. And then once we find the child and we decide whether or not this report is valid, if the report is valid, then we begin to take steps to see how we help that child, if we need to refer this child to a partnering agency, or if we start the intervention within our offices.
I'm really grateful for this interview, because I mean, it's logical that you guys have this in place, but I don't think when we think of child protection, anybody thinks of that, I've heard also parents who struggle when it comes to discipline or just understanding the children, all of that, and not knowing that this is an avenue. I know a lot of parents probably reach out to police to try to instill fear, let me police talk to you because that will fix, type of thing. But to know that the CPFSA, no, actually not no, that's not new, but to not have it, I'm really glad that we're able to bring this to the forefront. So I want to know now, based on what you see in today's society in Jamaica, right? What is a major change or a major recommendation you have for parents in the Jamaican society,
A major recommendation is spend time to know your child. Use every opportunity as a parent to find out, to look at good parenting and bad parenting. Assess your style to see how does this affect my child? What is the result that I'm getting?
Wow, yes.
And you'd have to do it from an objective place. So you don't be too subjective about it to say this is what I do, this is what I know. Look around you, see the kind of parenting style. Go on Google, look up some. Go to the PTA, go to the church hall that has parenting session. When you hear parenting it announced over the radio, be intentional about being a good parent and find time to learn new things. Be open to learning new things and about how to care for your child. So that's one of the things that I would recommend to parents.
Wonderful. Listen, I love that you mentioned be intentional. Just like how you intentionally learn a skill, or you want the promotion at work and you try to upskill yourself, or you probably want to settle down with somebody, you want to be a better husband or a better wife or a better partner. Just like you make that effort in all those other areas, you have to do that as well as a parent.
Yes, because what I find is that a lot of parents, they are not willing to do the work. And when you try to help them, they leave, they don't do anything, and then they come back when the problem has escalated. And then they would say, nobody helped me. And when you try to work with them, you have to go to work, you have to do this, and they are not intentional about addressing the situation. And these are some of the parents you will see in the media that says, nobody helped me. But they did not try to help themselves, and they did not try to help their children. So you have to be intentional about being a parent. It doesn't just happen.
So guys, it's more than just, oh boy, want 3 children. Everybody asks you that question when they're growing up. How many kids do you want to have? And then we all have this goal in our head. There's so much more to it. As you say, it requires work, right? And we've learned over time that everything requires work. But especially in the parenting field, guys, what we're reaping today is from the seeds planted in the past.
Yes.
And it's not a good look at Jamaica right now. It's not a Jamaica that we're used to, right? But
it's not going to change overnight.
Exactly. But it can change. And that's the important part. It can change. And we're doing interviews like these and conversations like these to try to, even if it's one person, it can impact to look into themselves and assess situation and actually be intrigued. Probably call 211. I never know you could have called. I'm going to be honest. I never knew you could have called 211.
Well,
you did know that?
I knew they could call it we just saw it as emergency.
Oh.
If you see a case having a child for emergency, you call 111. But you just if you say if you have a concern,
it's 24 hours, and you don't need any credit.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have roughly 3 minutes to go. So
2 minutes to go.
Or 2 minutes. I don't know if you have a short answer to this, but we have a question from our listener saying, I don't know if I missed it, but the people who are helping, which should be you and I guess the person at CPFSA, have they been through it themselves? Experiencing trauma, overcoming trauma. Do you have a response to that?
I guess most of us as social workers, we were led into our field based on our own experience. Yeah. And if we look at our culture, we will realize that most of us is not all came out of a place of wound. And out of that wound, you recognize how debilitating it is or crippling it is. and you see persons function below their potential.
Yeah.
And out of it, if I came out of it and I'm surviving, I want you too to survive.
Okay.
And so I'm here to help.
Well, I love that. I have to say thank you, Mrs. Joy Pedley-Rochester, for being here. It was a very insightful conversation, and I definitely learned a lot. I know the audience learned a lot. So thank you. And guys, thanks for tuning in.
I want to say big up to all our guests.
Yes.
Through Natty Sean. We also had Turbulence on the line. I want to say also shout out to Cash Flow 7 Days. Congrats to our winners as well. Cody Shakespeare. Big up to all those who joined us. I hope you guys have a fantastic
day. Stay safe.
Look at more, it's all about Strictly 2K. Be there or be square.
Have a good one, guys.